you got a good deal on this little homestead. It's 5 acres, and it's mostly brush and trees, a few little scattered openings on it. But, you couldn't pass it up. Good location, had decent fence on it, but it just didn't have that much grazing on it. What are you going to do with that? Or how can you turn that around? A good way is to do what we call silvopasture. Folks, we've got a ton of land out here on our personal farms and the ones we leased. There wasn't very good timber on it. And so we went in there in the wintertime and we cut out 90% of the trees. And so we were leaving trees every 100 to 150 feet apart. And we were taking out all what we call the junk trees. So we'd go ahead and mark the trees that we wanted to leave. And the way we do that is you look at the trunk and you also look at the top. Look at the tops of these trees. The ones that have a nice crown, some trees will have a crown that looks like this. You got the limb going up this way, and there's a limb, and there's no limbs on this side. It's because it was too close to another tree. It didn't develop a limb. So trees that have crowns up like this and one coming up the middle, well, kind of like your fingers. You want more, the more open the crown on the top, the quicker that tree's going to grow. That's going to be a good tree for you. Take the other ones out. Chop, depending how big they are. If you bring a dozer in there, first of all, you better have some deep pockets. It costs a lot of money to go in and remove the stump, the tree, and get rid of that tree. You're going to leave it laying on the ground? No, you can't do that. You got to get it out of there because you can't grow grass if you leave all the trees laying on the ground. Wintertime's a great time for us. We're a little bit slower that time of the year, and we have the manpower. We'll go out and we'll cut in the morning after chores, drop them on the ground, chop it up into firewood. Maybe it's a saw log. We'll take the saw log off and get it out of there. Or maybe the top of that tree is full of limbs, like this big around. Beautiful shiitake logs. We've got over 3,000 shiitake logs now. Complements of our silvopasture clearing. So you get firewood, you get saw logs, and you get mushroom logs. And then after we get that brush out of there, we'll come in right behind that and unroll hay. So when you cut that tree off, you're cutting it off as close to the ground as you can. You still have the stump. The stump's going to be there for many, many years, especially if it's oak. Now, if it's pine, cottonwood, sycamore, soft maple, those stumps are not going to be there very long, maybe 3 to 5 years, and they're rotted out. But as soon as you cut that tree, folks, you need to paint the stump. And I hate chemicals. I mean, I'm adverse to it 100%, except for one thing. I'm not going to take it out of my toolbox. Because when you do silvopasture clearing, if you don't paint that stump, all you've got is just a pile of brush. Because the next year, that stump's going to send off 6, 8, 10, 12 trees on the edge of it because you didn't paint it. You've got to paint the stump within 3 hours of cutting it. And we use crossbow, 1 quart of crossbow to 5 gallons of red diesel fuel. So I just get me a 5-gallon bucket, fill it full of diesel fuel, 5 gallons. Then I dump a quart of crossbow, stir it up. And then I put that in a jug, like a chainsaw bar oil jug. With a brush, I paint them. Don't spray a stump. You're not going to kill it. Use the paintbrush, and I use a little paintbrush with a long handle, and I paint the cambium bark, the edge where the sap would. Don't paint the center of the stump. You're just wasting your brush killer. You're not killing anything. There's nothing living in the center of that tree. It's the bark. It's that bark area. And you've got to do it within 3 hours or don't do it at all. Because within 3 hours, that tree seals off. The sap flow seals off. And so when you paint it, it's not drawing the brush killer down to the tip of the roots. Okay? Kill the stump. It'll start rotting. If you don't kill that stump, it'll be there for the next 100 years. It's not going to rot out. You're trying to develop silvopasture. You got to get rid of the stumps. Okay? You got sprouts coming up everywhere. Are you going to go out there and mow those every year? No. Because you're going to tear something up. If you're down going through some trees and hitting stumps with a brush hog, it's a good way to tear up your tractor and potentially damage your brush hogs.